Welcome back, Retro Gamers, to video 14 in the series Destiny of an Emperor playthrough. You may recall in the last video that we penetrated further into the province of Wu. We made the long march from Weiji Fortress to Wu Castle and were able to overcome the defenders of Wu Castle. When we got into the castle, we replenished ourselves, of course, and then I took care of the housekeeping offline. One of the items of housekeeping that I probably should have showed you is finding the crossbow that was hidden in the well that you see there in the center of your screen. Now you've got four different weapons in your arsenal now. You've got swords, a battle axe, the scimitar, and now the crossbow. Thing about the crossbow, it's rated at less striking power than either the battle axe or the scimitar, but you get 2 shots for every battle round. So total, like the bow before it, the total impact of that crossbow is going to be greater than any of the previous weapons. So we have distributed those weapons among the members of our battle group with the principle that the best weapon goes to the strongest fighter. So Zhang Bao has that crossbow. Guan Jing has the scimitar. And then Peng Tong, always our fighting tactician, gets the lowest weapon. So Peng Tong has the sword and on down the line. You get the idea. In any case, we've replenished ourselves and done that housekeeping, and then remember that when you shut the game down and come back up, you come back to where Liu Bei is residing, and that is again Chengdu. So we took the gull wing from Chengdu to Jianan, and then we did that long march again from Jianan through Weiji process, and we are now back at Wu Castle. And before we move on to the next objective, which is Wu Cave, there are just a couple of characters that we want you to talk to. And this guy, Lu Ming, is just threatening us. Leave at once. We'll fail if we try to invade Wu. Now, we're in the fat middle of Wu anyway, so we're not going to pay any attention to what he's saying. Now, there's this other character that we want to talk to if he'll talk to us. And he says that many villagers have claimed to see something glowing in the tunnel. What they're talking about is Wu Cave, our next objective. And there's even more ominous news here. It is said that the glowing thing houses a demon. So those are our warnings. Of course, we're going to ignore all of them and proceed now out of Wu Castle and toward Wu Cave. And we got to go north before we can get south to where the cave is actually located. We're going to expect to encounter more of those very large battle groups and very sophisticated tactics. And we're going to have to be on our toes, and I'll be saving or sharing even more techniques than the last video in overcoming these more sophisticated attacks. And Zhu Jijin we fought before. Remember, he was one of the defenders of Wu Castle. So at this point, we know he's going to run some tactics on us, but it's just him by himself. So we're going to do the all-out. And we see a few casualties coming, particularly Zhang Bao there. What should we do with Zhu Jijin? Should we bring him into our fold? Now, Zhu Jijin isn't as smart as his brother, but he is a great tactician, and he's got over 5,000 soldiers. Now, it may be that by the time we get to another headquarters to swap him out, we may have increased a couple of levels and he will no longer be necessary for us, but we're going to go ahead and convert him anyway. 10,000 gold coins, and we've got 231,000, so that's well worth the price, if nothing else than to take him out of our hair and keep him from attacking us again. So Zhu Jijin goes into our reserve because we've already got 7 generals in our battle group. And now Zhu Shi is before us. Let's take a look at him because we have the opportunity to avoid him altogether. 10,000 soldiers and a strength of 210. We would like to add him on our side, but more than likely he's just going to cause us a bunch of casualties. And we have the opportunity, since he's quote-unquote not aware of our presence, that we could retreat. But you know me, I'm almost always up for a battle. And we need to climb those levels. This is the only way to do it. As we fight Zhu Ji, and we are going to do an all-out, we've got to keep an eye on our soldiers, specifically Zhang Bao, because he can take a big bite out of one of our generals in just one swing. So we're very carefully watching, and it looks like so far we're successful. And we did experience a bunch of casualties, but we took Zhu Ji off the board. Unfortunately, we weren't able to capture him. So we take a look at our battle group. Now we have nothing but D elixirs left, which will restore up to 4,500 soldiers. And none of our generals need that many soldiers at this point. So we're going to be wasting some of the power of that D elixir as we go along. And we're just going to have to play the game of when do you refresh? Do you do it at 2,600 soldiers left, as in Zhang Bao there, or do you hold off a little bit longer to get a bigger bang for your elixir D buck? And we're going to hold off a little bit right now. Now, this is the second level. Wu Cave has 3 levels, and this is the second level of the cave. And there are going to be quite a few twists and turns. And this is an easy way to get confused. So if you don't have a super duper gaming aid like the one at mikesrpg.com, then make a drawing as you watch my playthrough. And be sure that you take the right twists and turns as you come through this very involved cave, because you can be circulating around until your death by attack of the warlords in this cave if you don't have a direct route through it. And even if you do have a direct route through it, you may end up dead because of the long march and the drain on our resources, and, as you can see here, some fairly powerful warlords. And Fan Zhang is nothing that we would need in our entourage at this point. Sun Yi we could use, but I doubt that we'll be able to capture him. So let's just do the all-out, keep an eye on our generals, and stop the all-out battle when they get down to, for example, Zhang Bao's, excuse me, 1,200 or Guanjing's 1,500. So let's gang up on Sun Yi in this attack, but we are going to have to use 2 of our elixirs. And one of those will come from Peng Tong, and we hope that he gets to go first, so that Zhang Bao will be at lower risk. And then we'll let Wan Zhang replenish Guanjing. Now for this next round, Pang Tong's going to have to replenish himself. And so we'll do another targeted round. And Pang Tong's going to use his last elixir to replenish himself as we continue the attack. And we're going to try to duke it out, of course, and save our tactics, even our restorative tactics, for later on in this journey. If we use them all up right at the first of this journey, we may fall short of our goals. And I'm just thinking that Wanzhong probably needs a restorative as well. Trying to decide whether we're going to do it this battle round or the next battle round. And as you see, we're only taking about half a bite out of Sun Yi compared to the bites that he's taking out of us. So this is going to be a very costly round for us in terms of elixirs. And we've advanced to skill level, so all of our generals will get more powerful at this point. And this may be a point that we want to use one of our scarce tactics, a restorative tactic, even though we're early on in the game. Now, you see this Seimian tactic that we have just learned, and that's going to be a very powerful tactic for us in these next battles. The good news is that Seimian can stop all the tacticians on the enemy side from using tactics against us. That's the good news. The bad news is that it's a very expensive tactic for us. It's about 17 tactical points for each use. So we've got to be very judicious in the way that we apply that, and I'll share that with you as one of my tips as we go through the next part of this journey. Now, Fan Zhang, we made the determination early on that he wasn't a big enough threat or a significant enough addition to meet our recruiting standards, so we're going to let him go. And of course, we didn't capture the big guy. And now, before we run into another big warlord, we're going to do a targeted attack just so we can restore. We'll use Pang Tong with that restorative tactic, and that way we won't have to use a bunch of our elixirs, because it looks at this point like all 5 of our generals could use an elixir. Let's conserve those, spend a few tactical points, and replenish everyone. And so now we get up to the full speed for each of these generals, and it's at the new level that we just moved into. And you can see that crossbow takes the 2 strikes, and we are strong enough to obliterate this rebel force before they even have a chance to respond. So the good news is we're getting stronger. And the bad news is we're still not as strong as most of these warlords that are attacking us. And the other bad news is that we've still got a long way to go in this particular tunnel. And we're doing these long north-south traverses, so it's a pretty long way. Zhu Ji, we've fought him before. We probably won't be able to capture him, although we would certainly take him if we could. Chen Pu, has an intelligence of 210 and 9,300 soldiers. And if we could get him on our team as a second fighting tactician, or actually as a lead fighting tactician, that would be a big feather in our caps. So let's start with the all-out and see how far we can get before we have to stop to restore some of our fighters. And I realize as I say that I should have been putting elixirs back into the knapsacks of our fighting generals in between fights here. So I've got my finger on the X key just to stop in case we come to a risky point and we're there with Guanjing. So we're going to stop the battle even though we're close to finishing it. And let's let Guanjing restore himself with one of his elixirs, because Pang Tong is out of elixirs. So that was a tactical error on my part. And we've got to hope that Guanjing doesn't take a big hit before the end of this battle. Luck is with us. And Zhu Ji did his own restorative tactic, but it was a really weak one. And that will open the door for us to finish these guys off. Oh man, we almost lost Wanzhong on that one. So, first thing we're going to do is restore Wanzhong. And let's see who else needs a restorative at this point. Even, again, we're going to be wasting some of the strength of these elixirs, but there's nothing to be done for it at this point. So let's restore Pang Tong. And restore Zhao Yun. And then let's move some elixirs from the trailer's knapsack into our fighting general's knapsacks. And I think that Guanjing may have used one also. So let's just check the knapsacks. This is a critical point for us, so we want to make sure that we fight the next battle with full supplies. A quick check to make sure that each general has 8 items in their knapsack, and then on down the road. And sure enough, we are in trouble here. Jiang Qing, strong, sort of smart, not really much going there. Kan Ze, he's got the fairly high intelligence. Bu Ji, also high intelligence and more tactics and more soldiers than Kan Ze. So if we had a chance to get Bu Ji on our team, we would certainly like that. And Ding Feng, also, if we could capture him. When we run into these generals that have more than 10,000 soldiers, don't expect to capture them. It's really good luck if you can get them on your team. And it doesn't look to me like we're going to get these guys on our team. And the only thing that we can do right now is do an all-out against these guys at the beginning and just keep our finger on the X button when we run down. We still want to use the duke it out approach as opposed to using up our tactics here in the tunnel. And we'll stop for Pang Tong there and for Zhao Yun. And probably the guy that we want to diminish is Ding Feng. So we'll target Ding Feng and we'll use our Elixir Ds for Peng Tong and Zhao Yun. And that was a close call, and it still may be close. Fortunately, Wan Zhong used the elixir early on in the battle round. And now Zhang Bao is in trouble. And fortunately, their fire attack is the weaker variety. They don't have the upgraded fire attack that we do. And they're not very successful at that fire attack. We weren't fast enough on the trigger there, and we've lost 2 of our generals. This is heavy indeed. So, all 3 of the generals that we have left are strong enough now, but we're going to have to just run some pretty strong targeting against these guys just in order to survive this encounter. So let's see if we can just take them off the map. Bougie was actually the most powerful tactician that they had, so let's target him and take him off. And Ding Feng, even though he's got the most soldiers, was the weakest tactician. So let's go after Kanjie. Oh, we've had a tactic run against Han Zhang, so Han Zhang is attacking our side because of the tactic that they sprung against us there. Let's hope that he's able to throw that tactic off before too long, or we're going to be in real trouble. Good, Han Zhang voided the tactics, so now all we have to do is defeat Ding Feng. And he's taking less than 500 casualties per swing, so we should be able to survive the rest of the attack. And we've got a couple of our fallback techniques that I can share with you now that will help us in this very precarious situation. Jan Qing is not that great a threat, so we'll leave him to fight. Kanze, the same thing, we're going to let him go. And of course, we didn't get Bougie. They're not giving us those stronger tacticians. So, the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to use our Resurrect for Peng Tong, because he is our master tactician at this point, and we need him in the fight. Now remember, when you bring a general back up with the Resurrect, he only gets 400 soldiers. So we're also going to administer a D elixir to bring him back up to speed. Now there's nothing we can do for Guanjing because we only had one resurrect. So what we're going to do is pass his weapons to Ma Chao. We'll let Guanjing be the trailer because he's got nothing to carry anyway, and we'll let Ma Chao take his place in the battle group. And this is an important fallback technique when you get into this situation. And Guanjing, we use the pass command, but look at the response. Ma Chao took the scimitar from Guanjing. In other words, Guanjing isn't even strong enough to pass his weapons, but the person that's getting them will be able to take them from him. And we'll equip Ma Chao with those weapons, of course. And I guess this is an object lesson for us. Keep your finger on that X button and keep your eyes active, and even then, that might not help you. Quite handy that we just emptied Ma Chao's knapsack. And we can just pass one for one. So Ma Chao gets in the battle group. Guanjing brings up the rear. And you'll notice also that all three of our fighting generals have surpassed Peng Tong's soldier count at this point. So we're going to move Peng Tong down to the back of the formation, which might protect him a little bit more as well. And we also see that Zhang Bao needs an elixir at this point, so we'll use one from Zhu Jiliang. And we also have to refill Peng Tong's knapsack. I think he used 2 elixirs. And I believe Hong Zhang used an elixir as well. Yep. So let's replenish his, and you see how quickly we've gone through all but one of our spare elixirs. And this is the danger of Wu Cave. We're keeping our eye on Zhao Yun now, who is the next general at risk. And if we lose him, we've got no fallback technique that will allow us to replace him, other than using the gull wing and heading back all the way to a friendly castle where we can get resurrects, gull wings, and all the other provisions that we've lost. And Zhu Jing is nothing but strong, keeping our eye specifically on Zhao Yun, but on all of our battle group, and playing that conservation game with our D elixirs. Wan Zhang is at risk, but he was able to survive. So anytime a general goes down below 2,000, we've got to restore him because of the size of the enemies against us. That 1,500 or 1,800 soldier count can disappear in an instant, literally. And we'd hate to have to go back out of this tunnel with nothing to show for it. Let's see what we've got. Bougie is a fairly strong tactician, so if we could get him for a few gold coins, a few thousand gold coins, we would add him to our entourage. But no, not even Bougie at this point. They just seem to be holding out on us. Now, for future reference, when we come back through Wu Cave, because we're obviously going to have to go back and replenish ourselves this trip through Wu Cave, we're not going to go all the way through and head up against the next castle. But when we do come back through Wu Cave, you can see that there is the exit. We're going to go past the exit at this point. And head for the treasure chests. Now, take a look at what is before us. A large sea of lava. Coincidentally, it just happens to be square because of the graphics of the game. And now, right at the point where we were about to get to our prize, we've got Lu Xun, who has the Wan Fu tactic. Wan Fu will restore him to complete health. So it's a very difficult thing because you get him beat down to near death and he uses the Wan Fu, and now you've got to beat him down again. And he's already a lot bigger than we are. So this guy is going to be very difficult to defeat. And we've got Sun Yi, who is nothing but strong. So Lu Xun is the guy we're going to have to fear. And the technique that I use here is to try to beat Lu Xun down to about halfway and then use our Sei Mian tactic against him, because Sei Mian prevents all tactics on the enemy side. So if we can get Lu Xun beaten down to about halfway, where he might normally use the Wan Fu tactic, then we can hit him with Sei Mian and prevent him from building himself back up while we beat him down to 0. So that is our plan. At the same time, obviously, we've got risks on our own side with Zhao Yun being down as low as he is. So let's get going on this battle and see what we can do. As a matter of fact, I think, like I said, we want to conserve our tactics as much as we can. But in this particular case, I'm going to start out with a restorative tactic to get all of our generals up to fighting speed, so we've got a little bit more breathing room before we have to stop the fight. So you see all those generals come up to full fighting strength, and we're going to need all of that because you see the bite that Sun Yi is taking out of our generals. And Lu Xun, sure enough, throws one of his tactics at us and takes one of our general out of the fight for the moment, depending on how long that lasts. Let's go ahead and do the all out. You see how quickly our soldiers are diminishing here. We haven't taken Lu Sun down beyond halfway yet, and we are already down in the difficult portions of our soldier population. And now Lu Sun's tactic, striking power, is going to be doubled with the Beiji tactic that they just used. So we are in a little bit of trouble here. All right, it's decision time. We're going to let Zhao Yun use the Semian tactic, and we are going to let Pang Tong, who hopefully will go through, use one of his elixirs to bring him back up to speed. And unfortunately, we were unsuccessful. We've lost Pang Tong. And did we get that Samian into effect? Yes, we did. So now we're going to concentrate on Lu Sun to take him out of the picture. And actually, we're also going to use the Beiji tactic. And at this point, we're so close to our prize that we're going to let it all hang out here. So we've run out of that tactic. But I think one power pill with Beiji against Lu Sun will defeat him, and hopefully Zhao Yun will go before Lu Sun, and we'll use the Beiji tactic for Ma Chao as well, and a power pill, and just randomly anything we can do to finish this fight. And now the important tactic that we need to use, and we wasted that Semian because Sun Yi doesn't have a tactical ability, but now we're going to throw the kitchen sink at Sun Yi, including a restorative tactic and power pills. And you see that combination again of Beiji and power pills kind of helps even out the playing field a little bit. And we should be able to take Sun Yi off the board with the all out. We've advanced another skill level, and even though we haven't been able to recruit any advanced warlords at this point, at least we're growing big enough to stand up against them. Now, before we go any further, there's nothing we can do about Pang Tong. We're going to be fighting short. But one thing that we can do is pass an elixir D, or let's pass a power pill. Let's just make room in the knapsack right now and give Chitu Ma to Zhao Yun and make Zhao Yun our lead tactician. And I'm trying to think. Well, we used power pills. Let's move the power pills also to our fighters. So Zhang Bao is replenished with power pills now. Zhao Yun has his 2 power pills, and he's now our fighting tactician. Wan Zhang has got a full complement of power pills. And Ma Chao is our short at this point, 2, 4, 6. But what we can do for Ma Chao is give him Peng Tong's elixir. And I think Guanjin's knapsack is empty. Zhu Jiliang doesn't have any more power pills or any more elixirs. So we are as good as we can get. And let's talk about the lava now. The lava is going to cost us some soldiers as we walk across it. And through experience, I have found that obviously we're going to take the shortest path we can through the lava. And I have found that those big bubbles in the lava, any bubbles reduce the number of casualties that are inflicted by the lava. So we find a short place with the most bubbles. The other thing that will cause you a problem is if you try to zigzag through the lava to hit the big bubbles, it's counterproductive because you're increasing the amount of distance you travel through the lava. So straight through the lava at the point of the largest bubbles. Now take a look at Zhang Bao. Let's do a profile. So Zhang Bao has 5,500 soldiers. And let's see, Wan Zhang right now has 3,300. So let's watch those 2 guys as they come through the lava. And right at the wrong time, we've run into another big warlord. And the good news is that getting stuck in the lava with our battle train doesn't seem to inflict any further casualties. So we got through the lava. From 55, Zhang Bao went down to 52, and Wan Zhang went from 33 to only 31. So 400 casualties across the lava at that easiest point. And now we have reached that treasure chest. And remember the warnings about glowing in the tunnel and all of that stuff? Well, we check in the treasure chest. Something is glowing, a sudden chill as if from an evil presence. Upon examination, you find it to be a sword. Glowing like a forsaken spirit, Zhang Bao got a sword. And let's take a look at, let's see, that sword probably would have fallen into Ma Chao's knapsack. Sure enough, there it is, Nu Long. You may or may not recognize that name as the name of one of the swords that the old swordsmith made for us that was stolen from him. So we now have found this first sword hidden in a treasure chest behind a stream of lava in Wu Cave. The good news is that New Long, take a look at this. We're going to take Zhang Bao's scimitar and we're going to pass it down. And take a look at Zhang Bao's striking power right now. Attack power AP, that third listing there is at 130. So we take his scimitar, the crossbow. All right, let's do the waterfall of weapons, passing the lesser effective weapons down the row. So let's see what Ma Chao has. He's got a scimitar. Wan Zhong has a scimitar. Zhao Yun has a battle axe. That's the lesser weapon. So we pass that battle axe down to the trailer. And we take Wan Zhong's scimitar. Now, actually, what we're going to do is take Zhang Bao's crossbow, pass it to Zhao Yun. Even though Zhao Yun is our fighting tactician, we still want him to have that powerful weapon for the short term anyway. And we're going to take that sword and pass it to Zhang Bao. And of course, equip him with it. Now remember, Zhang Bao had a striking quotient of 130. And now Zhang Bao has a striking quotient of 240. So more, almost double the striking power. So these swords, as we pick them up, are going to be very, very effective and therefore very valuable. Now, there are two other treasure chests in Wu Cave. One of them holds a steel helmet, which is a significant upgrade to the defensive capability of a general. The other one holds an Elixir D. Now, one Elixir D is not worth the extra fighting that we would have to do to get it. So we would ignore that treasure chest anyway, but the steel helmet is worthy of our attention. However, it takes us a long time to get to the steel helmet, and we are already out of resources. We still have 57 tactical power points, but we and Zhu Ji Yang actually will be replacing Peng Tong in a battle group if we have to fight. So the decision here, and we're down to our last Elixir Ds as well. So, and my judgment is that we're not going to be able to make the long trek to get that steel helmet, and we might as well take this as a win, getting the sword, and gull-wing back to where we can replenish ourselves. Which means right now, Wu Castle. So we take the gull wing and we use it, and unfortunately, Wu Castle is not on the gull wing list. And there are no power pills at Jianan, and so we're going to have to do a gull wing all the way back to Changsha, restore our power pills, and then we can march down to Jianan and restore our Elixir Ds. It's kind of a circuitous route, but we're kind of stuck in that situation right now. So and at the same time, we realize that Changsha has the headquarters where we can take a look at that general that we brought on all that long time ago. Zhu Jijin, remember him? At the time, looked very powerful as maybe a primary fighting tactician. And he's got 6,300 points, which is significantly greater than Pang Tong. And Pang Tong's not getting any bigger. And we want... we were going to move him out of the fighting group anyway. So Zhu Jijin is really a great replacement for Pang Tong. And here's another part of the good news. If we put Pang Tong back into the reserve, we don't have to resurrect him. So, well, that saves us 100 gold coins. But in any case, that's another little bit of a technique for where we are in the diminished resources area. So what we're going to do is delete Pang Tong and bring on a fully functional and actually stronger Zhu Jijin. And designate him. Don't forget to designate a, well, no, he's going to be a fighting technician. So Zhu Jiliang is still going to be our acting tactician. And we are going to give Chitu Ma back to Zhu Jijin. So, first of all, let's reset our battle group. Zhangbao, Guanjing. I believe Zhu Jijin comes next. Let's see if we're accurate here as far as that right-hand column of numbers. Now, Zhu Jijin is going to go up past Guanjing. And Wanzhong is just 2 soldiers greater than Ma Chao right now, so we'll leave Ma Chao in the trailer position. Now, Zhu Jijin has a few more soldiers than Zhangbao, but we're going to leave Zhangbao in front. Number 1, he's stronger. Number 2, we want to protect Zhu Jijin even more than we want to protect Zhangbao, because our fights are now much more dependent on tacticians than they are on muscle. I mean, we still need the muscle, but we really need the tactician. So now we've got to do our little housekeeping bit of moving the weapons and everything around and then replenishing ourselves. And I'm going to go ahead and do that housekeeping. You can imagine what we are going to be doing. We're going to be putting the strongest weapons in the hands of the strongest generals. We are going to be obviously replenishing the power pills here at Changsha, and then going to Guiyang to save our game, and then marching down to Jianan to get our elixir Ds, and then making again that long traverse back to Wu Castle and go back through Wu Cave. So, of all of that, we'll do the housekeeping after the video is over, and we'll start up the video probably back at Wu Castle to save us from those long traverses, and just expect that by the time we get to Wu Castle, we will have increased probably another level in the game, and we may have been able to recruit yet another strong warlord for our battle group. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching. Comment, subscribe, do all those free things, like, and we'll see you in the next video. Meanwhile, happy gaming.